Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Super Feeler podcast. My name is Laurie, and I'm super excited today to be joined by two people that I actually know in real life, which is extra exciting. Before we start, this is the BPD Relationships mini-series. If you haven't clued in on that already, I'd like to thank our new Patreon member, Katie. Thank you so much, Katie. We appreciate all of your support. So, Brittany and Justin, I feel like Brittany and I have been talking about potentially doing a podcast episode for like years, it feels like. And I thought of you guys immediately when I came to this relationships mini-series because I was like, you guys are such badass humans individually. And then together, I know like with the amount of badassery you guys do in the real world, you've somehow like come together and been able to overcome a whole bunch of cool stuff. And also in this context, Justin is the one who you've been diagnosed with BPD, right? Yeah. Was diagnosed with BPD, and oftentimes, at least in this relationship miniseries so far, it's always been the woman has been diagnosed with BPD. And so I think there's like cool dynamics here. So maybe before we kind of start, maybe we can both have you introduce yourselves and a little bit about who you are, because I feel like Brittany also has really cool connections in like the mental health substance use space, not just like because she's married to Justin. Or maybe Justin, let's start with you. Who are you?
Yeah, my name's Justin. Brittany's my wife. I currently work as a peer coordinator for ROAR, which is Reducing Overdose Abbotsford Response. I was diagnosed with BPD last year after I had a very, very destructive episode. I was working for a health authority, and the work just was really hard on me, and I hadn't really worked in that field. So I wasn't really very versed in taking care of myself, and I just crashed really hard, and just ended up going through 3 or 4 weeks of just really brutal, destructive behavior. And I was trying to, push Britt away and push the kids away. Thankfully, she didn't let me. There and was very insistent that I need to get some help. It was honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've always had these really big highs and lows throughout my life, and it's very cyclical. You can almost set a watch to it. And I never really understood what the problem was. It makes more sense now that I understand what BPD is and why those cycles were coming and going. I don't really get them much anymore because I am stabilized and pay a lot more attention to the signs when I am getting manic about something. I know that like if I don't start doing things to regulate that, I'm gonna, so always big ups and then super long down. So if you try and cut it off, halfway up, then you never really get to that like really deep pit. So it was pretty much.
Well, that's amazing. I am so glad you got diagnosed because I know, I don't know everything about that period of time in your guys' life, but I know that it was very stressful and very chaotic and like challenging for both of you, I'm sure. And getting diagnosed is honestly so helpful because like you said, you can actually start, once you know why things are happening, you can start trying to cut that off before it escalates, and you can pre-regulate so that you don't have to get into that like up and down cycle to begin with, which is the whole point.
Yeah, become a lot more proactive as opposed to being reactive.
Totally. Amazing. Brittany, how about you?
I'm Brittany. I work in the nonprofit leadership world. I've been working in mental health and substance use and homelessness services since 2006 across Alberta and BC. I run a small to mid-sized kind of nonprofit in Abbotsford that does everything from like street drug user activism to youth substance use counseling. And, we've started branching out provincially and supporting programs kind of all across the province. I have had my own struggles with mental health, a lot of trauma. I come from a very significant trauma history. I also have, had parents who also had struggles with mental health that they didn't understand or have diagnosis. But I also have three autistic children, and so the autism gene runs strong in my family. I am a self-diagnosed autistic. One of my children was getting diagnosed, I all of the red flags that the psychologist put up, I was like, oh wait, those are all of the characteristics they got from me.
Right.
And I also have an ADHD diagnosis, and I've struggled with like chronic depression and anxiety throughout my life. I've worked really, really hard. Actually, Justin and I both have worked really hard over the last couple of years to heal and be the best versions of ourselves. We also got sober. Neither of us use any substances anymore, which has actually been a huge, huge change for us. It's not that we had like really significant, like deep substance use in our recent history, but just not using substances at all has also made things like our medication and our mental health like stabilize a lot more.
You did both have pretty significant substance use histories like a long time ago, right? Like that's kind of what brought
As
you both
youth.
into this work. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we both we were both on our own. Like I was on my own from the age of like 15, Justin a little bit earlier than that. And so yeah, and we both were definitely using hard substances quite early in life.
Kind of like you're kind of like thinking about law school still, right?
No,
Oh, you're not. Okay.
no.
You were like hard pass on that?
I'm a very impulsive person, and so
Okay.
like
Weird.
when and I really enjoyed, like I did some self-rep litigating for our organization last year in the Supreme Court. I litigated a complex human rights challenge regarding an encampment, and did really well. It was super
Hmm.
fun. Well, I'm not sure fun is exactly. It was
I feel like
really
you like
interesting.
I think you like problem solving.
I
And
love
so
problem solving.
it was like fun from that lens, but not
Yeah.
fun from we for the record, I live in Abbotsford, which is where their organization is based, and like we it is the Bible Belt. They do not like unhoused people or people who use substances
Oh,
at all. And so the organization I used to be on the board of the organization they work for, and like they have to just fight every day against the narrative about the people they're trying to support. So it's not an easy gig that you guys are
yeah.
doing.
But it was like really quickly apparent that I had an affinity for the
Yeah.
law. And so I kind of wrote my LSAT on a whim, and did well and applied to law school. And then was like, actually, that's a terrible idea. I don't want to work with lawyers all the time. I
Yeah,
actually
fair.
really like my job and I don't want to leave it. I'm not done here. So I totally backed away from that.
I love that your impulsivity wasn't like my impulsivity where it would have been like maybe like a week. It was like I'm going to not only want to do this, then I'm going to do the LSAT and then I'm going to apply to law school. Like that's a long ass impulsive little phase there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, wait, put the brakes on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, honestly, better that than getting halfway through it and being like, I hate this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Okay, so let's get into the relationship things. So obviously, you guys have been together. Like Justin got diagnosed after you were together, which we already heard about. So how did you meet? I actually don't think I know the answer to this question. Ooh, is this
Oh,
a juicy
Justin.
story?
It's funny because we actually met 10 years before we actually ended up together. So we were both street youth in Calgary. And I had just had my oldest, so this is like 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was 18. And we were both after, like when you're 18 and you have a baby and all of a sudden you have childcare. And what are you doing during the day? Like I was supposed to be going to university, but I was kind of day drinking. And so my friend and I were wandering downtown Calgary, going to do some day drinking in the river. And we stumbled upon Justin and his friend who were also doing some day drinking. And so we went and day drank together, and that kind of sparked a, couple months. I'm not sure I would call it a relationship, but
Right. What
interaction of
18-year-old
sorts.
day drunk little summer
Yeah.
fling situation?
Yes, one of those. And so that was kind of, and then we went our separate ways for 10 years. And then he landed out here in BC. I was still in Alberta. And we both had kids. And then I was getting divorced. And I just happened, there was like this Facebook group for like downtown Calgary street kids
Okay.
that had grown
Like
up.
grown up. Yeah, the
Yeah,
grown up ones
right?
now.
Like, and I was living in Medicine Hat and I was going to Calgary for the weekend. And I just kind of like commented on there that like my friend and I were looking to party. And then an old friend, actually the friend that he had been day drinking with that day, commented and was like, "You'll have to come a little further out west," and then tagged him.
And did
And
you know
so,
who she was, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Like you still remembered her. Okay.
yeah. And yeah, so then we started talking on Facebook. And for the first few months, like he was working oil field in northern BC and he was living out here and I was living in Medicine Hat. So we were like a triangle of 12-hour drives. And
Yeah.
so we were just kind of, and then yeah, I ended up moving out to BC.
For him.
Yeah, well, I didn't admit that it was for him at the
Right.
time, and we didn't move
Yeah.
in together.
Okay.
But yeah, I was head over heels, and he was
No.
definitely still very wild and did not want to settle down. Was not. But I moved out here. I also moved out here for work because I work in the social services, and I always had, hoped to work, in the downtown east side, and which I did when I moved out here. And but yeah, I kind of got my claws into him and just like didn't let him run away.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. Just because we have a lot of international listeners, for those who don't know, the downtown east side is an area of British Columbia that is like, I think it's the poorest postal code in North America. Is that right? It's Canada for sure. I think it's North America. And it is, I can't describe it. Honestly, I was driving through yesterday and I literally just turned to my husband and said like, it's like there's a third world country in the middle of downtown Vancouver.
Yeah,
It's so sad. I don't know how to describe it in like an appropriate way
it's
other than just
yeah.
like you cannot understand. It's apparently the most beautiful like community of people because they are all like so struggling, but
Mhm.
it's truly feels like you're like driving through a war zone.
Yeah, there's a
Mhm.
lot of care, there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of poverty. And also just like because here on the West Coast, like we have a pretty good climate
Hmm.
comparatively to the rest of Canada. And so because we don't have like the same freezing temperatures and the same kind of snow that the rest of Canada has, a lot of folks from across Canada do, when they are using opiates or amphetamines and struggling and living in poverty and homelessness, a lot of folks do kind of flock to the West Coast
Which makes sense.
because it's
You're
safer, right?
yeah, you're a lot on I'm sure it happens, but you're way less likely to freeze to death in BC than the Vancouver area of BC, like the Pacific Northwest area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Justin, do you have anything to add to that meeting story?
She left out some of the juicier details, but
Ooh, okay.
yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting time in our lives. We did do. I did so much traveling. I was working in Pink Mountain, which is
I don't even know where that is. Yeah.
Fort St. John, which is 14 hours from here north. Pink Mountain's what, 2.5, 3 hours north of
Of there.
John. Yeah, it's like
Holy shit.
way out there. Yeah, so we were working out there, and then I ended up driving down to Medicine Hat the first time that we saw each other in person, and got there. It was like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning maybe, and I so when I left work, my boss told me, he's like, yeah, you can have like 5 days off or whatever like that, because we were just down for a little while. But then he had called me when I was like driving down, maybe 6 hours after I had left the rig, and was like, hey, whatever, you can come back to work and whatever. And I was like, well, whatever, just give me like 24 hours off, basically, right?
Oh my God.
I drove all the way down to Medicine Hat,
Yeah.
had a sandwich, made some boom boom, took a nap, and turned around and drove back to Pinky Mountain.
Holy shit.
And it was just like that
Yeah.
for us, right? Like she was like, oh, called me, I'm going to be at this conference in Edmonton. And I was like, it's only like 4 hours out of my way. Like I was driving to work, this was like a couple months later.
Yeah.
Stopped in Edmonton and a sandwich, made some boom boom, took a nap, and on my way to work.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that does feel like, I've dated a number of people who have worked up north, and sounds about right, to be honest with you. It really does. A little cocaine thrown in there, probably, and I don't know about you guys, but from all the people I've dated, sounds about right.
Might have had some of those moments.
Yeah. And was your guys' mental health, or I guess Justin specifically for the purposes of this series, what was your mental health like at that point?
Pretty unhinged. But I wasn't like, I didn't have any reason to not do the things that I had these like gigantic whims to do, right? I didn't have a family. I didn't have a wife or a girlfriend or anything like that. So it was like, oh, I'm just going to like fuck off to Montreal for 5 days and go get absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? So I think it was real, of course, really unhealthy to like be doing all of that stuff, but it was making it so I never really had to deal with how difficult my mental health was, because I never really had to look at it. It was just like, well, we're going to go to Mexico for 10 days. We're having a shutdown party for the rig, and the boys, like 12 hours before we got off, were like, hey, let's all go to Mexico. And I was like, oh yeah, let's go. Right.
Yeah. And that world is kind of like that. People, again, for those of you who aren't from BC and Alberta, people are going to work up north to make shitloads of money, usually working like 2-3 weeks at a time and then coming back for 1 to 2 weeks and just doing that. So it's like a very much like, there are people that do it that are like married and have families and stuff, but it's a lot of like young dudes who are just like there to make buttloads of cash and then figure out their life later.
You can't spend it fast enough.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like there were times that I would go home and I'd have like, I don't know, 18, 19 grand in my bank account. And I would just, 5 days, I could blow that easily. And then boom, here's payday. There's another 10 grand. And I was like, okay, we'll just keep going. So yeah, it was a
crazy life,
pretty wild lifestyle.
But I can totally see where like impulsivity wouldn't be obvious there.
Yeah.
As long as you're going to work.
Yeah.
That's right. It. That's what you're there for.
And everybody's doing the same thing. So it just seems like totally normal. Like, well, yeah, there's the odd guy that's like, oh, I'm saving up for a house or like whatever. But really, there's guys that are like, I just bought this fucking $200,000 speedboat. And I'm like, fuck that. That's so cool, right?
Right.
What do you mean you're saving up for a house, you fucking dork? Like, who wants that?
Totally.
Right? You can't race a house.
Truly. Yeah, that's so interesting. And Brittany, did you see things in his mental health? Like, because I feel like you also both grew up in kind of a like chaos filled, maybe it wasn't chaos for you, but like not a typical growing up. So it may not be like as obvious to tell that stuff's not kind of in line with what is supposed to happen.
So at that time in my life, I had just left a marriage where I was a suburban soccer mom.
Okay, which is funny. You as a suburban soccer mom. I don't know. It
People
makes
who
me
know
laugh.
me now, like as my authentic self, can't picture me, but I was so miserable, right? And so, like, when my marriage ended, like my marriage was to an alcoholic who was like not kind. And,
Mm.
I left that marriage with three little kids, between the ages of like 10 and 2.
All with
And
autism.
yeah, and all at the time undiagnosed autism myself as
Yeah.
well. And I was just like really like trying to find myself and who I was, but also like had been living this life that did not fit me. So I kind of went off the deep end a little bit. Not nearly to the extent that could have happened, but like I was seeking a little bit of chaos and fun and excitement, and Justin was very much all of those
That.
things.
Yeah. Which is like
Um,
so hot when you need it. And then
so
it,
much.
it and then it becomes a disaster later usually.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was kind of unfair of me because, I always think like he was who he was, right? Like he was like, and there was no like, like I knew who he was. He knew who he was, right? He wasn't like deceiving me in any way, but I changed the rules to the game, right? I fell in love with
Mm.
him and I moved out to BC and I wanted to settle down and build a life together. And I believed that he wanted that with me, but, had a lot of other stuff going on. And so like there was a lot of things that we had to work through to get to the place where we are now.
Yeah, I bet. What was that like, Justin? Did you feel that rule change?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. It took a long time, and even now, like I still struggle with it, and it's really like breaking a wild horse, and
Mm.
like when you get a horse that's born in captivity, like it will be docile because it's never known anything else, right? But if you break a wild horse, that horse is always going to be a wild horse. You just you tamed it. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that where I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do like this, and I really do romanticize like the good old days when like I
Yeah.
could just do whatever the fuck I wanted. And sometimes I get hooked into that, and it really starts this like repetitive thought process in my brain, um, where it's like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? And why am I being controlled? And why am I letting this happen? And it's gotten a lot better over the years because I'm like, well, hey, I'm not actually really that guy anymore, right? That's who I was when I was like in my, mid to late 20s and even into my early 30s. But man, I'm in my 40s now,
Yeah. You got to slow down eventually.
right? I'm not, there's no reason like that sort of behavior doesn't serve me anymore. But there's still that like wild horse mentality that's just like, oh man, I could just really like, fuck, I could just go off the rails. You know
Hmm.
what I mean, which is, essentially what happened last year.
Yeah.
And it was just pushing back against everything that was like stable and secure and comfortable because like I don't know that, right? And
Yeah.
I've
I
never
mean,
known that in my
it's
life.
so much easier to go back to what you know. And also like we have a tendency to push the people we love away from us to see if they'll leave or not. Not I don't say that in like a manipulation way, but in like a like we are our attachment is so fucked for lack of a better word that like we're like, well, let's see how far I can push this for them to still love me. And sometimes we get a little too close to the sun. And I think it might have been a little close to the sun there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not the only time that's happened in our
Yeah.
relationship. It's just definitely it was like, and things have changed, right? Like we had, like we broke up for 6 months, like a few years before that.
Mm.
And like that was pretty much it was the exact same behavior. And that was actually the first time that BPD was mentioned.
By like a psychiatrist or by you? Like by one
Yeah,
of you guys?
it was by a psychiatrist,
Mm.
and it was I didn't I didn't see it actually at the time, which is interesting because I have worked in mental health for so long, and I have worked with lots of folks like who are diagnosed with BPD,
Hmm.
and I didn't see the connection when it was mentioned. I was like, okay, like he was diagnosed with ADHD and like, depression and, but then BPD was mentioned and I was like, I don't think so. Like the
Yeah.
behaviors don't really fit. Now I see it, now I understand, but like the real catalyst for that was I read an article about quiet BPD
Hmm.
and I didn't know anything about that. And that is really like more where Justin fits and like it's that internalized kind of stuff
Right.
until things get to a point where he totally self-sabotages everything. But so for the first couple of years, like when, BPD was brought up and like they were, kind of like, oh well, I think Justin has BPD. We just didn't treat it as BPD, didn't, like seek help for that because it just didn't seem to fit. We didn't understand it, right?
Well, and I think that also is likely contributed to by the gendered way that BPD is looked at, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, BPD is diagnosed way, way, way more in women than men, and it's not because, in my opinion, it's not because fewer men have it necessarily. It's because we think of like self-harm, for example, as like, you know, cutting and burning. But for self-harm, men can be like doing fucking drugs in BC in the last 5 year, 10 year. How long has this overdose crisis been on? Way too long. 10 years. That's fucking Russian roulette at this point. Or like driving your car too fast, or there's so many other ways to self-harm and be impulsive that we don't think about as diagnostic criteria for BPD because it's always been skewed to women. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not like get hurting yourself on your skateboard over and over and over again, which is self-harm, you know?
Absolutely.
That's the thing. There's a lot of stigmatization around men and mental health. Right?
100%.
I would have never, ever went to a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I would have never went to a therapist if it wasn't for Brett, right? That stuff. And I was raised, for the short time that I spent with my dad in my life, I was raised that like stuff it the fuck down.
Yeah.
I don't
Be a
want to
man.
hear about it. I don't want to see it. You know what I mean? I don't have a shit about your day. I don't have a shit that you're struggling. Like you push that down and you just push on. And even now, like, I'm 41 years old. I've been I left my dad's house when I was like 12 or 13. And like, I haven't really seen him since, but all of that is still like really ingrained in
Mm-hmm.
me to a point where I'm like, whoa, like I can hear my dad when I talk to our kids. And I'm like,
Oh,
what the
wow.
fuck did I just say? Like, is that like, that's not actually me. That's Bill talking.
Mm.
Right. And so like having to unpack that and really, and I try and do this with all of my male friends, right? Because I can look at them and be like, hey, man, I can see like you, you need some medication, man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not, I try and be a little bit more gentle about it, but like a lot of,
Sometimes you have to just be blunt about it too, though,
yeah.
because people won't listen to it sometimes. Yeah.
Well, even they won't like, I have a good buddy. He works in construction and he's a really great dude, but he's just so fucking sad all the time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like, he doesn't do anything. He just gets up and he goes to work, he comes home, and he plays softball, and that's it. Like that's his whole life. And I'm just like, man, like maybe you should go talk to somebody because like you just don't seem like you're doing well. Right? Oh no, I'm fine. I'm good. It's okay. I'll brush it off. You know what I mean? It's just a rough patch or whatever the fucking story is that
Yeah.
they tell
Tell themselves and everybody else.
right. So I mean, there is a lot of under diagnoses because of that, right? Because men won't just go and talk to somebody because it's a sign of weakness or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, so many people's fathers, like so many people that I know that are men who are saying basically this, it's always comes back to, well, my dad would have, like, even if you don't really care, but like, don't tell my dad. If my dad found out about this, he'd be so mad, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God, your dad's probably also struggling, you know? It's like, how many generations back does this go? It's so sad. And I really desperately hope that we're the last generation of that bullshit, because I don't know if we are, but I really hope so. Because like, absolutely not. We don't have time for this anymore.
I don't think so, because there's still a lot of people that have that mindset.
Yeah.
And there's not
just not the people we associate with, I guess, is the problem.
It takes a lot of self-awareness to be like, oh, like there's something wrong with the way that my dad raised me. You know, there's something wrong with the way that my mom raised me. Right. And I need to I really need to put a lot of work in to make sure that I'm not passing that shit on to my kids. Right. Because I can only teach them what I know, and they'll only learn from me what I can teach them. Right. So if and I do, like, I do, fuck, do I ever act like my dad some days when I'm, stomping around the house and, go into the fridge and there's no milk left in the jug. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why isn't there any fucking milk? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And those are the kind of behaviors that I did learn from my dad, at a very young age. So it was just like normal. Those are normal reactions to situations that are like, why isn't there any water in the jug? Well, we were with a bunch of kids who don't really think about that kind of stuff, right? It's like, it's normal stuff. You fill up the jug, you take a glass of water out of the jug in the fridge, you just replace it, right? Fill the jug back up. Like, it seems normal to me. But I don't think like a, 15-year-old autistic boy.
Totally.
Who's like,
yeah. He's like, why would I replace this water in this jug? Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally. So when it comes, like, obviously we're kind of getting into the stigma piece. Brittany, have you, as you were kind of learning about BPD and kind of coming to the realization that maybe this is what Justin was struggling with, did you feel like you knew a lot about it? I mean, you knew me already. So I feel like I don't shut the fuck up about BPD. So that's probably an interesting, like, tidbit.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I thought I knew a fair bit about BPD, but there were obviously a lot of gaps, a lot of things that I didn't understand. I knew a lot about a lot of the outward behavior that I had experienced with like clients in that kind of a relationship, right? And that's about all I knew. And so I had a very narrow view of what BPD was, because I hadn't really had a whole lot of reason to dive into it, right? And learn more about it. Yeah, I think there were definitely like some pieces of, like stigma that I was aware of. Like I know that I've, interacted with people who, have had trouble accessing mental health care because they're just written off as BPD. And, like there's really like I've interacted with psychiatrists, especially in like rural southern Alberta, right? That are just like basically like if, like this person has a BPD diagnosis, they're just like over dramatic and, like they're always crying wolf and like there's no help for them, right? I had a client that I loved very, very much, that did take their life when I was working with them. They were 22, and that was a person that had BPD that had astronomical struggles with the mental health care system in Alberta when I was working with them. And like that was crushing, right? I watched them fight through so much stigma to try and get support. And so I definitely was aware of some things, but I did not know anywhere near as much. And I'm a learner, right? I'm a
Yeah.
like
Yeah, you're
I
an
like
inquisitive
to know
person.
all the things, right? And
Yeah.
so I've definitely done a lot of research now.
Hmm. Well, and you're also mostly working with populations that have significant substance use histories and also like all of these other social determinants of health that are against them. So like you're going to be discriminated against for like 15 different reasons. Which is the doctor going to choose today?
Yeah,
Right? Is it that you're drug
absolutely.
seeking? Is it that you're unhoused? Is it that you have BPD? Is it that you're unshowered or whatever it is? Like there's unfortunately for like the populations that you guys work with, there's kind of an unlimited amount of reasons that they might be discriminated against. Are they indigenous? Right? Like there's so many, right? And so how do you really like parse that out? But have you told anybody, since last year, since his diagnosis about BPD that they've been like, ooh, don't date him, don't whatever, or don't marry him, I guess, at the time?
No, because I just don't have those kinds of people in my
Yes,
circle.
yes, true.
I just
Yeah.
don't like so, but I see oftentimes like I'm in some Facebook groups and stuff, right? Like because like when we were going through like really rough times and I was trying to learn about things and like I joined a Facebook group for, you know, partners of people who have BPD and like
Yeah.
I see a lot of stigmatization on those groups. I understand that like people are going through some like really difficult struggles, and they're just seeking support and like so I'm try to be very conscious of like not judging people because a lot of times they just don't have the coping skills, to understand what their partner's going through outside of themselves and the impact to them and but I comment on there a lot, right? To
Of
to
course.
try
I know
and
you
like
would.
to give people like hope too because
Yeah.
like getting help and like the support has been life changing for us but like that also comes hand in hand with like how dedicated Justin is to being a good partner and person and father and like constantly like I know that most of these things like don't come super easy and like natural to him. Like I'm naturally a caregiver, right? I'm naturally a very nurturing person. Justin has to put a lot of effort in to do those things that come really
You can't see
easily
his
to me.
face, but yes, he agrees. His eyes
Yeah.
agree.
But the point is that he does put the effort in. He fights so hard every day to be like good for us, like and to take good care of himself so that he can be the man that we need, right? And it's incredible.
What is the hardest thing for you, Brittany, in terms of I find like for you guys know Aaron. For Aaron, sometimes it's just like trying to understand why my brain is stuck in the same ruts or whatever it is. Like what's the hardest part from your perspective of being in this relationship because of BPD?
Fear.
Fear that it's going to
It
get worse.
is fear that it's going to fall apart again.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's just like, we've been through some really traumatic things, some things that like have definitely changed like who I am as a person. Um, I like am so grateful that we've worked through them and that we're where we are today. But like definitely like when his mental health is kind of like taking a little bit of a turn, it's always like the hypervigilance of like, you know, I have very good, like firm, clear boundaries, loving boundaries, right? But like also just like treading that balance between like honoring and respecting like who he is and where he's at and what's going on with him, but like also like holding that like very clear, like I can't go through those things again. So
Yeah.
like, when he has an off day, like I sometimes do find myself going like, is this the start of,
Yeah.
like a major crisis that is going to like threaten to burn down everything that's important to me again,
Hmm.
right? And so I think that that's the hardest part. I think we do a really good job of managing it and like he's really good at hearing me, actually. Like, probably takes about 30 minutes of him being an asshole when I
That's
call him
not
out
that
on a
long.
no, right? Like, we've gotten to the point where, like, we went from, like, having, like, splits that were, like, lasting weeks, right?
Hmm.
Or sometimes months, right? Like, in last year's case, right? To the point where, like, it's, like, 30 minutes of him being, like, a raging dick. And I'm like, you're being an asshole. And then he
I'll talk
comes
to you in
back.
30 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he comes
exactly.
back in 30 minutes and apologizes, right? Like, and it just like helps us catch that cycle before it really starts. But like, it's
Mm,
definitely, there's fear there.
totally. And how do you do it, Justin? Like, how have you been able to make such significant changes in the last year and a bit of being diagnosed?
I think really just understanding it, like in the beginning, what BPD is, how it does affect me, why. I'm a very not a detail oriented person by any means, but if you tell me to do something, I'm going to ask why it needs to be done. It's the same thing with BPD. Why why is my brain like this? Why do I have BPD? And being able to understand those small segments of that help me to contribute more to my self awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And Britt's very helpful with that. When it pisses me off and it's annoying as fuck. I'm not gonna lie to you when she's like, "Hey, is there something wrong? What's going on?" Even when there isn't, and I'm like, "No, I'm fine. Fuck off. Like, just leave me alone." Well, I don't say that to her, obviously.
I am also, no offense to Brittany, 100% sure that Brittany is sometimes also a dick for 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
true.
like, I know you both.
Yeah, yeah, and it just is like I don't want to be a piece of shit, um, and I don't want to do the things that I've done, like, yeah, last year wasn't the first time that any of that stuff had happened, but it was definitely the worst. Even though it was like a very short period of time, but there was a lot of damage done.
Were you already engaged at that point, or did you get engaged after that?
We were engaged. Yeah, we've been engaged for
A long time.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
Few
okay.
years.
I think I didn't know that until it was like, oh, wedding's happening. But okay.
There was just a lot of damage done, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah. What's the thing we're always talking about? The recognition trauma, I think, is what
What is that?
it's like if there's a situation, I'll just say it. I cheated on her last year, right? But, that's a very traumatic situation, right? It only takes 10% recognition of that, or like repetition of that trauma, in order to reactivate the traumatic event in somebody else's brain, right? So,
Right. Okay. So that 10% is what she's seeing, and she's going, "Oh shit,
yeah.
this is going to be the same thing again,"
So, like,
even though it
even
isn't
something
escalating.
simple, like if I'm spending too much time on my phone, right? And it's because I don't really typically do that a lot unless I'm really like, I don't know, either learning something or I'm just like dissociating or whatever it is. I'm just bored or whatever, right? But like having my phone glued to my hand is not typically something that I really do a lot of. So when I
Mm.
do it, it's like, oh, well, what's going on? And, oh, who are you talking to? And not in a way that's like being controlling or anything like that, but just, I think, trying to recognize the pattern. And like she
Which
said,
is fair,
yeah,
right? Like that's
like, let's get in front of it. If there's something wrong, I picked up a pack of cigarettes a couple of weeks ago. I was on my way to a job interview, and I was just like, shit, man, I want to smoke a cigarette. Right. I went, got a pack of smokes, hacked a couple darts. I got home and she's like, yeah, you smell like, have you been smoking? And I'm like, yeah. And that is like an indicator, right?
mm,
Or that there might be something going on because it's unusual behavior.
right.
right? So I try and pay attention to those cues. And, in the past, I was like really shady about that kind of shit, and I'd be like, no, I didn't smoke. What are you talking about? And like try and like, lie my way out of it because it's just how my brain
Easier.
works.
Yeah.
But it's not easier.
No, it's not.
It's not
you think it's easier until you start doing the other way around. And then you're like, oh, right. I could just actually say what happened and then we can get over it.
And then it's, well, okay, well, why were you doing that? No, I didn't do that. And until I'm like backed right into a corner and I've like have no way to lie myself out of the corner. So I just have to be like, oh, fuck, I'm busted.
Yeah. And then it's like, what else are you lying about? And then for everybody else, it starts to like.
Exactly. Right. If you're lying about the small things. How can you not be lying about big things? So I really try and pay attention to those and like being honest and forthright is like really, it's a very difficult thing for me. Right. I'll be honest with you right now. Right. Like telling the truth is hard for me. And it's a defense mechanism from when I was a kid. Cause
survival. Yeah.
When I got in trouble when I was a kid, I just get an ass whooping. You know what I mean? And like trying to lie my way out of it, which always made it worse, of course, right? I thought I was smarter than my parents. And it's like, anyways, but yeah, just like working on that, working on like, my self-awareness about like, where am I at? How am I feeling? Right. And I feel good about this thing because I have this like cycle of things that I like doing. And we moved out to Boston Bar and it's really beautiful out there.
Boston Bar? I thought you were at Hope.
Boston Bar?
Yeah, Boston Bar.
Shit, that's so far.
No. It's not that
an hour and a half from
It's beautiful out there though.
Yeah, and there's great hunting out there and I love hunting. So I've just been like fixating on hunting since we've been out there, right?
Yeah.
But I've also been like cognizant that like, that's not always... Just because it's there and it's close doesn't mean that it's convenient, right? Doesn't mean that like I can go hunting every day. I have to be cognizant that
you have a family.
I have other responsibilities and I have to be like sure that it's not just like this fixation that I'm having. Do you know what I mean? Where like in the past, I'd just be like, oh, hunt, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like
avoid everything else.
Yeah.
Obsessed with one thing. Yeah, I do that too.
So just like, paying attention and making sure that like, as like what I'm doing here, actually, like, how's it going to affect? Because there's a ripple effect for everything that I do, right? So if I'm like doing shit that I shouldn't be doing, or being shady about something, like what are the ripple effects of that? And Brett's really like, it's very understanding. And I'm so glad that she is the way that she is. And so like intelligent when it comes to mental health. Also just like such a caring person that it's like,
oh my God, such a caring person and like such a fucking advocate.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine like having Brittany on your side if you need something. Like,
right.
You're going to fucking get it.
Yeah. I always feel like, man, I feel sorry for like the son of a bitch she gets cut loose on, like that lawyer when she was doing that human rights case. I was like, that poor fucking bastard, man. Like, oh my God. She just went in there and made the guy look like a total idiot, right? Some 34-year veteran lawyer, and she just ate him up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's embarrassing for you, buddy. But yeah, she always comes at everything from such a loving perspective. And it's hard for me to accept sometimes because it feels like she's attacking me. And, and that's that 30-minute being a total dick thing, right? Is because when I'm in the moment and I'm elevated, I'm like, just shut the fuck up. Like, in my brain, I'm saying this, right? It's like, just fucking leave me alone. But she's just like, hey, like, what do you do? What's going on here? Right? Are you actually being your authentic self? Or like, are you, so I mean, just taking cues, and also watching the way the kids are interacting with me, right?
Yeah. Because I can't remember, are any of the 3 kids biologically your kid? No.
But I do have one that...
okay. That is Oh yeah, that's the one in Vancouver. Or, I mean, we don't have to talk about it, but yeah. I know that there's been. I know Brittany and I have talked about the fucking schlepping the kids back and forth. Situation.
So I mean, just paying attention to like, how am I treating people? How are people treating me? Right? How am I treating myself? Right? These are all like indicators of like, am I doing well in my quest to like be better?
Yeah.
Right? Or am I just like slacking off and not really like doing the things that I should be doing in order to like make sure that I am getting better?
Yeah. Have you done like treatment? Like, did you do DBT or go to counseling or get like medicated?
Yeah, I did. I ended up going to the hospital last year for 5 days. I was put on to a good medication regimen. I've been pretty lucky with that I haven't really had to play around with medication too much. Usually, like the first 2 or 3 kind of adjustments to things just seem to work for me. So
that's a lucky.
Yeah, right.
It also is not also luck, because I will say I put a lot of research and advocacy into medication regime for him, because like the psychiatrist put some things in there that were not helpful at first.
Yeah.
And like really he was having a lot of emotional blunting because they kept escalating like antidepressants, and like that was the opposite of what he needed, because he was like in a full on like shutdown, right?
So, just dissociate for life, basically.
Yeah. And so we had to like, I did research, and there's a medication called Trintellix.
Yes, I've heard of this one.
It's fucking amazing, and it's like the only antidepressant that does not cause emotional blunting, that like has the opposite
what kind of
effect.
medication is it again?
It's an antidepressant.
Is it like an SSRI? I'm gonna Google it.
And it was like the big change was like when they stopped piling on. And I think that was part of the problem why things got so bad last year, is because he was like, I'm depressed. And so they kept increasing his antidepressant. And then it was like causing such severe emotional blunting that he was like, well, now I don't feel anything. Right. And so now I'm just going to like burn everything down because I need to feel something, because I can't 100%. Feel anything. Right. And so like that was like fighting to tune in the meds.
It makes it way worse.
Yeah. It was like, that was a big deal.
It's interesting. I just Googled this. It's a serotonin modulator and stimulator. I've never even heard of that. Enhances serotonin activity in the brain. Huh.
Pretty good.
Well, that's amazing. I have heard of other people taking it. I haven't taken it myself, but I learned the fucking hard way last year to not change my meds and almost died. So I'm not changing my meds for a long time now, because I finally found a combination that worked. And last time I did this, it did not go well. So, but maybe I'll think about that next time, because I do feel a bit blunted. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I think
I'm like, wow, do I have no emotion anymore?
When we went for it, the doctor said that you had to have tried 4 other antidepressants.
Justin, I've tried basically. I mean, I was at the vet the other day, and I was just telling her about how antidepressants worked. And she was like, well, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh no, I've literally been on like 15 different antidepressants. Like, don't worry, I got you. Like, I was like, I'm good.
Well, and what the psychiatrist was arguing was that there's not a lot of, like, it's a newer med.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's not a lot of research in Canada about it. Like, there's just all of the research is out of the US. And I was like, okay, so let's just own that they're further ahead than us.
And the pharmaceutical companies have more power to fund
their
research.
Lead and like use their research and like try the good new med, please.
Yeah, totally. So, let's not wait 15 years and then try the good new med. Yeah.
Like, you're going to put them on something from 1970, but like, please, can we have the like 2010 med?
Yeah. 2010, 15 years ago. No, right? That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry, did you say you did like DBT and stuff, or just get the psychiatry in the hospital?
I went after I got out of the hospital. They gave me Langley mental health, just amazing. Like I
really,
I was so like blown away by the the patient aftercare. Like they
Huh.
so
You never hear this in Canada, just for the record.
yeah, it's wild. Like I got out of the hospital. They followed up with me. I had daily video appointments with the psychiatrist. Once I got out of the hospital, I still was kind of um, I had a couple, probably about a week of like a rough patch before.
Yeah.
I think what had happened was the meds started kicking in, and I was like, "Oh, what the
How
fuck?"
long were you in the hospital for?
5 days.
Okay. Well, also, like, being in the hospital is very different than being in real life. So you also have an adjustment period of, like, not being on a rigid schedule and, like, so many other things, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I was with Langley Mental Health for 3 months um, after I got out of the hospital. So it went from every day for 3 weeks. I had everyday video appointments with a psychiatrist to twice a week, then once a week. And
Wow.
they hooked me up with a DBT, like starter
Group?
course.
Yeah.
It was like,
In groups, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like 10 weeks or whatever that you had to do that before you could get into DBT.
Yeah.
And then so I went and did that. And then they never really got back to me about going into DBT. Maybe they tried and I never really like followed up with them. But I get into saw a few therapists and and I think I'm having trouble finding a good talk therapist just because like
Yeah.
I had one that was really good. But I outgrew her, I saw her for like about a year, right up until last Christmas, actually. And then she was basically like, I don't think there's much more that I can offer you, right? Like, you're doing really well. And I was like, well, all right. So I found another one. I was kind of vibing with her for a little bit, but then, yeah, it just wasn't really filling the hole, I guess, would be a good way to describe it. So now I'm still trying to actively find a good therapist. I'm not really.
Well, now you live in, like, literally the middle of nowhere. So if you're trying to see them in person, it's going to be a little more challenging, right?
Yeah, I think that if we go, I can go to Hope Mental Health and
Oh, yeah.
do something. Just do it like remotely. I don't
Yeah,
like
totally.
doing it like that. But
Well, and you guys are probably, like, in Abbotsford a decent amount,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I have to
For
be
work and
careful
stuff.
because of where I was working before. Like I worked
Ah, yes,
in,
that is
for
true.
the health authority, like basically doing mental health police work. So I have
Mm,
to be careful where I go because it's really easy for me to run into people who were my clients before, and
right.
I don't,
Yeah, very true.
I don't want to do
Which
that.
is why he got streamed through Langley when
Oh, well, yeah, I was
when
wondering. I was like, you didn't
yeah
live in Langley,
Yeah,
yeah
but
but you were working in Surrey, weren't you?
no,
no
Abbotsford.
Abbotsford.
Oh, you were in Abbotsford. Okay.
Uh, I'm just
People that aren't from here are going to be like, where are all these places? I don't. I'm
They're
gonna
all
need to
super
write a
close.
map. Yeah, within an hour of each other for sure. Okay, so hold on, let me look. We've talked about a lot of these things already. Brittany, what strengths or beautiful qualities do you see in Justin that you think are connected to BPD or their journey overcoming
He
it or living through it?
Yeah. Uh, he's actually an incredibly passionate person. Like when he is interested in something, like he lives it. Right. And I think like that's so beautiful. It can also be like incredibly challenging, but it's also just like he learns things like so deeply. Um, Also like because he has put in so much work like to understand himself and who he is and like um how he relates to the world. Like he's just so self-aware, and it also has made him such an incredible dad. right? Like he
Mm.
is such a good father because he didn't have a good father, right?
Yeah.
Like I always tell people like he's the best dad I've ever known because like we both had shit dads, and like he is, we have kids that have mental health struggles and like Justin is so good at de-escalating. If you had asked me that like 6 years ago, I would have said no fucking way. Like
Yeah.
he was a bit of a hothead. But now he's just like he's so patient and kind and understanding. He's also like a really huge advocate for his community, right? Like he is the guy that, is breaking stigma against men's mental health, right? Like
Yeah.
he is the one that like is very cued in when his friends are struggling and say like able to like open up and say like, "Hey man, like I have gone through mental health struggles and like I wouldn't have gone and got help, but I'm so glad I did because I wouldn't be here. Like, this isn't the life that I'd have, And so, like, those things are incredible qualities, right? And like, I always saw this beauty underneath, like all of this, like, un, unchecked, like, trauma, right? That he just didn't understand and didn't know how to like cope with. And he's such an incredible human being and I'm so grateful because like I know that if he didn't like want like he's not going to do anything that he wants. Like he's a very very strong personality, right? Like so he's not
Yeah.
going to do anything he doesn't want to do. Like you can't force this man to do anything, right? Like and so like I know that like when he is like putting in so much work to like be a good partner and a good parent and like that like he wants that, right? Like
Mhm.
he fights for us. He fights for his community. He's also a Métis man, and like over the last couple of years has like been really like learning about his culture, and he's a huge advocate for his cultural community. He's on like the board of the Métis
Yeah.
Association,
I saw
and so
that,
like
Justin. That's so amazing. I was like, yes, that's so cool. I
right,
feel like you've come so far in that like
yeah.
cultural journey in the last few years.
Yeah.
And so like the deep passion, right? And I don't think like that deep passion, like I don't think that like he would have that same kind of passion without like being somebody who has BPD, right? Like I think that that's just like one of those huge strengths that comes from being a person with BPD, right? He's so passionate.
I think last question, Justin. I'll start with yeah, I'll start with you, Justin. I can never decide who I want to start with on this. So, what message of hope would you share with someone who has BPD who wants a loving, healthy partnership but is afraid that it's impossible for them?
Well, it's not. It's not impossible. I think understanding yourself, understanding your diagnosis, understanding what stability really looks like for you as an individual, are so. But those are such important things before you can before you can access a relationship with somebody. Being able to communicate those things freely and clearly without the idea that like somebody's going to judge you or shame you because of something that like you can't help. You know what I mean? I can't help having BPD. It's just it's a part of who I am, right? Um, so like when I approach those, anybody approaches those types of situations, like you don't have to like go out on a date with somebody. You don't have to be like, oh, by the way, I just want you to know, like, I'm I have BPD. Like it just doesn't need to really be like that. But understanding that you can communicate that freely with people, explain to them, explain to somebody who's a potential partner, somebody that you have an interest in, like, hey, this is something um, I'm dealing with. Not gonna make me like this isn't like oh I'm gonna go crazy and chop you up in your sleep or anything like that.
Totally.
Like I feel like there's a lot of when people hear BPD, they
Yeah.
automatically think like
Fear.
personality disorder or like whatever.
Yeah, Jodi Arias. I don't know if you just watched true crime, but Jodi Arias, iconic person that definitely has BPD, that stabbed her husband like 47 times in the back, shot him and beheaded him. And you were like, whoa, that seems like
A
overkill.
little extreme. I'm not
Anyways,
getting into that.
Okay.
but yeah, no, but like those are the names that people hear, right? Like they don't hear about the like hundreds of thousands of amazing people with BPD that aren't stabbing their husband and shooting him and beheading him, you know? And like you could do that and not have BPD. That's the irony of it. It's not as like publicized.
Like how many people have killed other people that didn't have a BPD diagnosis? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not
billions, literally.
it's not a terrible thing. And if you really lean into it and understand that it can be a strength, right? And like, well, okay, it's got a couple setbacks. Yeah, okay. If I hit a low, it's bad. You know, I don't let that take away from like the highs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the manic highs, but like there are a lot of really good things that, you know, I'm kind of like, oh, hey, it's pretty cool that like Britt was saying, you know, it does drive such a deep passion in me. And I think that's kind of like a thing for everybody that has BPD, right? It's like, shit, I totally lost my train of thought.
You're all good. The passion
Yeah,
that drives you.
it's a strength.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go out and talk to people. And I know being social is weird for all of us, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a set of chains.
Mm.
It's just to slow you down from living any sort of life that you want to live. And you can go and you will love deeper than that person has ever experienced in their entire life. So yeah, I guess long and short, just get out there and don't let your diagnosis get in your way of doing something that makes you happy, relationship or otherwise, right? Jobs, you know, hobbies, anything like that. Just
Beautifully said. Thank you. That absolutely beautiful. Brittany, how about you? What hope would you share with someone who's in a relationship with someone with BPD or wants to be?
I would say, like the communication is huge, right? Like, and that's just like, and don't give up, honestly. Like, this is like, I'm a very persistent person, right?
It is
And like,
true. Can
and,
confirm.
and I, like, I know that anytime that Justin tries to push me away, it's not a lack of loving me. It's struggling to love himself. As people with BPD, like that is like the biggest thing to lean into is like pushing to find ways to love yourself. And it's fucking hard, right? Like it can be hard for all of us, right? You need to love yourself to be able to love other people. I know it fucking sounds cliche, right? But like I know that like every time that our life is threatening to explode, it is because like my partner is like struggling to love himself. So he can't accept the love that I have for him because it feels so foreign, right? And so like, just like not giving up and like standing there like in the hard times, like it comes with such incredible rewards, right? Because the good times are so good, right? And like, like people with BPD have so much love to give, right? And like, and having firm loving boundaries, like being able to say like I love you, so I'm going to hold you accountable, right? Like, it matters how I'm treated, like I'm a good person and I deserve to be treated with love and respect, right? I'm going to hold boundaries with you, but I'm still going to be here loving you, right? Like I still like this is how I deserve to be treated and I'm going to treat you the same way, right? Like and I'm going to wait. And if you need to take some time till you can figure out how to treat me the way that I need to be treated in this relationship, I'll give you some time to do that, right?
But I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And like that reassurance, right? Like being able to just like Justin has tried really, really hard to push me away, right? To prove that he's not lovable, right? And he is. He's very lovable. He's pretty cute,
He is.
right?
He's very cute.
Like,
Can confirm.
and that's just like I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like trying to like remember that it isn't actually directed at you. When it's being directed at you, that like that is, you know, like somebody like trying to point the sword that they have pointing at themselves somewhere else, right? Because it's too fucking painful to acknowledge that like you're feeling so shitty about yourself, right? And so just like I think don't give up, like stand by each other and like work through it because it's absolutely worth it.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. This has been really fun because I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in a long time. And it's nice to know more about like the history of you guys because I really know you from more of like a professional context and not like this kind of personal story bit.
Yeah, but also you were like a lifeline for me last year when things were, you know, like you sent me tons of resources and like I wouldn't have been able to like probably fight through that and like gain the same kind of like insight and understanding without some of the things that you sent us. And so, you know, and I listened to a whole bunch of your podcasts. I think like there were like 4 months where like that was all I listened to in the car because I was I need to fucking understand this.
Yeah.
Right. So like we're really grateful. And I'm really glad that we've been able to like come here and share some insights with the community that you serve.
Yeah, now you're the person people are listening to when they're going through something like this, which is kind of a wild concept if you think about it.
Right? Don't give up.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Thank you both so much. You're so awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Thanks, Laurie.
Thank you so much for listening to the Superfeeler podcast. This episode was recorded on the traditional and unceded territory of the Matsqui and Sumas First Nations. If you'd like to learn more about the Superfeeler podcast, share your story, or participate in the Superfeelers Club, which is our peer support group, it's totally free, virtual, and open to anyone who experiences intense emotions or has borderline personality disorder, please check out the link in our show notes or go to laurieedmondson.com. If you would like to support the show, we would very much appreciate it. There's an option to do monthly small donations at whatever denomination you'd like, and you get bonus content, extra resources, and extra connection to me throughout. That can be found on patreon.com/superfeeler, or again in the notes below. Thanks again, and have a great day.